After years and years of languishing in development purgatory, finally, Doctor Who was able to return to television. But not as a series just yet. Instead, we get a sort of soft reboot that didn't go anywhere, at least on television. But this is canon, so here we go. The Doctor Who movie. We start out with the Master. Yep, he's still skulking around, but this time he's finally being brought to justice, and by the unlikeliest of characters, the Daleks. It seems they've rebuilt Skaro, re-established the Presence, and have sentenced the Master to death. Why? Why not? Anyway, he had a request that his remains be brought back to Gallifrey by the Doctor, still played by Sylvester McCoy, but this time Ace is sitting this one out. And it's a good thing too, because unfortunately the Master had an ace of his own up his sleeve. Because the remains aren't as dead as the Doctor thought. Even though it's an inert-looking goop, the stuff breaks out of its container, futzes with the TARDIS, causing it to crash land on Earth in the year 1999, or should I say at the very end of the year 1999, and I believe Los Angeles. It also turns into a snake. Yep, for a while the Master is a ghost-looking snake. Anyway, when the Doctor goes out to survey the damage and see where he is, he gets shot. Not by enemy agents or Daleks or anyone. He just gets caught in a crossfire between Asian gangs. Luckily, one of the gang members, a young man named Lee, takes pity on the Doctor. He calls an ambulance for the guy and also robs him, stealing a yo-yo, a sonic screwdriver, and possibly a bag of jelly babies. Oh, and a fob watch. Unfortunately, the Master decides to take advantage of the situation. He possesses one of the EMTs who worked on the Doctor and forces him to dress up like the Terminator. Meanwhile, at the hospital, a lady doctor by the name of Grace tries to save the Doctor after taking out the bullets and noticing the Doctor has an irregular heartbeat. Only it's not irregular, it's his second heart. And when she does an examination that goes a little too deep, something goes wrong and the Doctor dies on the operating table. Yep. Not Daleks or Cybermen or Sontarans or Ice Warriors or even the Master. The Doctor just is a victim of botched surgery. And to top it all off, Grace, still reeling from her failure, finds out that some x-rays that show the Doctor has two hearts are being burned because the hospital does not want anyone to know that an alien died in their care. And when Grace protests, she's fired. And her boyfriend leaves her. Oh, also, she has cancer. No, wait. That just would make sense. Because of the day that she's going through. Luckily, the Doctor doesn't stay dead, although the anesthetic they pumped him full of nearly destroyed the regeneration process. But he manages to pull it off and regenerate into the 8th Doctor, played by Paul McGann. He is the one bright spot in this iffy movie. He's a little shaky at first, being a little overly dramatic when he asks, "Who am I?" And later on when he's talking to Grace. But overall, he's a pretty satisfying Doctor, even though he's wearing a wig. He tracks down Grace, convinces her who and what he is, talks a bit about the past and the future, and how Grace became a doctor because she wants to hold back death, And eventually, he gets his memory back and realizes that the damage the Master did to the TARDIS will cause it to pull the Earth inside out before the end of the 31st of December. So, he and Grace decide to find a way to fix the TARDIS. First, they lead the cops on a high-speed chase with a motorcycle. Then, they crash a New Year's party. Then, they swipe a component from a very overcomplicated clock, which, when properly installed, will fix the TARDIS. Also, when the Doctor regains his memory and realizes his shoes fit great, he kisses Grace. For the first time ever, the Doctor has kissed a companion. Now this kiss is joy and relief over getting his memory back and finding perfectly fitting shoes, but later he does kiss her in a romantic way, so that's another first, although certain fans of the show might find it a little hard to swallow. Also, during the New Year's party, he lets slip that he's half human on his mother's side. That's actually a throwback to an earlier script idea, which everyone thought was thrown out. And strangely, the Master confirms this. And most fans just hand-wave it away. But it's never fully resolved. Unfortunately, the Master, who has tricked Lee into helping him by telling him the Doctor has stolen the Master's body, and he needs to get it back or he'll die. Well, they both catch up with the Doctor and Grace and coerce them back to the TARDIS, where the Master decides to dress for the occasion, which honestly I think was a bad idea. He should have gone with one of his Roger Delgado or Anthony Ainley outfits. Those were cool. At least he's still sporting the green eyes that the Master originally had at the end of the McCoy era. But anyway, in order to steal the Doctor's remaining lives, which is the Master's real plan, he chains them up, and when Grace tries to intervene, actually when Lee tries to intervene by questioning the Master, he kills him. And then Grace is killed by the Master for trying to intervene. And that's sad. But luckily, what Grace managed to do was enough so that the Doctor could break free. And in the ensuing fight, the Master is pulled into the Eye of Harmony. Yes, that's what powers the TARDIS. Even though it's technically on Gallifrey, apparently a fragment of it is connected to the TARDIS. And the Master gets sucked inside after refusing help from the Doctor. And then, as a literal Deus Ex Machina, the Eye of Harmony belches out a bit of energy which restores Lee and Grace to life. And just in time, too, because they still need to fix the TARDIS, which they do, and they jumpstart it, thus they're able to relive New Year's Eve and celebrate it properly. Lee returns the Doctor's effects, and while they both decline to become the Doctor's new traveling companions, that's when she and the Doc share a romantic kiss. And the Doctor flies off in the TARDIS, to hopefully continue on his adventures. Now, unfortunately, it just wasn't the right time for a new Doctor Who TV series. So this is the only on-screen jaunt the Doctor gets, or the Eighth Doctor gets. We do get him in book form, both text and comic, and several audio dramas, one of which I heard about that takes place in a real haunted house. And I might check out the Eighth Doctor audio dramas at some point. But back to what I was saying. The ratings for this special in America, which was the target audience, weren't what the higher-ups wanted. Mainly because they'd pitted this movie against the Roseanne special that answered the question, what happened to Dan? Did he survive his heart attack? Also, the passing of John Pertwee at this time kind of put a downer on things. But eventually, the Eighth Doctor did return, but in a different form. A webisode that I will get to later, but for now, I'll say this. While the adventures of the Eighth Doctor were fleeting and kind of chaotic, it did pave the way about 9 years later for the true return of Doctor Who in the new millennium. And when we meet again, we will finally get to the adventures of the Ninth Doctor, and it's going to be fantastic. See you then.